What's up, people? Welcome into the Fantasy Football Smackdown. It's a Wednesday. That you heard that right, because we are doing a live Q&A here on YouTube. I'm your host, Kyle August. You can follow me on Twitter at KyleMonth8. And my co-host here on the show, Jake, Rip Your Heart Out, Excellence of Execution, all of those things. Mr. Jake Rip. What up, Jake?
What's going on, man? Excited to be here on a Wednesday, bringing you all that good Smackdown goodness.
Yeah, we got some guests here, some fellow members of the Warzone crew. Oh, is that cheering again? Okay, whatever. Members of the Warzone network here. We got, of course, our buddy from the Dynasty Warzone, Memphis. What's up, man?
Hey, what's happening? Thanks for having me on your show. Can't wait to talk some redraft.
Well,
I've got a special question from a very special young man we're going to cover later tonight.
Oh, nice. Good stuff. Well, thanks for letting us, giving us the airtime. Checks in the mail, brother. And making.
I saw you walking in dribbling your checkbook. I'm not saying that check's going to bounce. I'm just saying for some reason you were dribbling it, but whatever.
No, thank you. Thanks for giving people a peek behind the curtain just a bit. And his second appearance in as many weeks maybe here. You know him from the Rookie Rundown, dropping on every Sunday night here on YouTube, Monday on the podcast. We got Dallas back on the show. What up, bro?
Well, that's Dallas.
How's it going, everyone? Yeah, I gotta wait for that drop now. It's gonna become a normal thing. Always over talk it. Nothing. It's good to be here. I'm excited to talk some 2021 prospects in general, some overall takes that we have, and get a little bit away from the rookie talk. It can be a little maddening looking at the same 50 players for the entirety of the season. So it's kind of nice to have a little fresh start here and there.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're watching us live, hopefully you are. Just if you have any questions, drop it in the chat. We'll get to them here. We got a few topics here off the top. But the fifth man in the room making his first appearance, Jesse, why don't you introduce yourself to the people, man? Give a little bit of background on how you ended up here with this group of misfits.
Hey, Kyle. I appreciate you having me on. Thanks, man. Jake, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Kyle. And Dallas, first time we met as well. So great to be on here. I have been a loyal member of the DWZ Patreon for about a year and a half now. I joined during pandemic, and Memphis makes everything so inclusive that I just became part of the crew right away. It's sort of just part of my personality to step up anyway. But what we've been doing is myself, Chad Mendoza, and Mike Casper have been doing a Patreon podcast where we talk a lot of Dynasty. We review all of the DWZ Patreon leagues, and we just try to make it fun. We joke around, we laugh, and we do different games and stuff like that. So it's a fun podcast. We do it once a week, and it is available on the DWZ Patreon feed. So in addition to all of the things that you get for being a Patreon, you also get an additional podcast where you might even hear your name.
By the way, Jesse, I failed you. So we have Memphis, we have Dallas. I should have said his real name's Minnesota. His name's Minneapolis, like Minnesota Fats, because everybody needs a city or a state designation. Kyle and Jake, I'm going to work on it.
I was going to say, Jesse, you did a great job there selling that, because as you were talking about all the great things that come with being a Patreon member, you could just see Memphis's face just glowing with, and honestly, we don't talk about a lot on the Smackdown, but Memphis and the guys on the Warzone, they're always throwing out the Patreon. Dude, the chat is crazy. Like, I try to keep up with it. Unfortunately, I wish I had a job that I could ignore my actual work they're paying me to pay attention to and be in there more, because it's just constantly going. It's awesome. All the questions and people helping each other out and everything. So, Memphis, before we get too far along, just for maybe the regular Smackdown listeners that for some reason have missed this, do you want to just give a little bit of plug for the Patreon and how people can find that and what's going on?
Yeah, it's patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. And this is the thing that I'm the most proud of since we've been doing Dynasty and fantasy content in general. It's this community. It's people like Jesse who want to do more. And we sign off every Dynasty Warzone, Jerry and I, with we're just trying to make the world a better place for fantasy football. And that truly is our goal. The friendships, the relationships we've made, that's what it's about. But also, you didn't hear the trade offer that Jesse was talking about that we don't always share. Some of the things that we do in the Patreon are really fun, and that's the community that we've built. It's patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. If you've never joined a Patreon, you can just DM me. You can at DWZ Memphis on Twitter, or if you don't do social media, you can email me. It's dynastywarzone@gmail. I'm happy to answer any questions. And I'm really excited for this season, man. Got the biggest group ever. Obviously, we are adding new members all the time. And I'm really excited to, I don't know if my phone can handle it. I'm looking at a phone upgrade. I think I'm going to need it as Sundays go live this year. But man, it's a great group of ladies and gentlemen over at patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone.
Yeah, tons of great guys over there. I started a league with some Patreon members. Had to be the fastest startup draft I've ever done in my entire life. I think we knocked 22 rounds out in like 5 days. It was just, and that was with 2 Aussie guys in there. So like we were dealing with time zones, all that stuff, less than a week. Like these guys, and I was getting sniped every round. So these guys know their stuff. It was excellence.
I will tell you, if you like our Dynasty content, you have been warned. So do the people in the Patreon. So the odds of you getting any value in a DWZ Patreon, just throw it out the window. That's what the Patreon podcast, I try to do a once a week podcast. Jesse and the gang, they've been doing what we call Patron by the People. Jesse, Mike, and Chad, they do a podcast reviewing leagues, bringing on league members. But as I bring it, like all the stuff that I cover, like the first place I sample all this is with these ladies and gentlemen, and it just absolutely, it's like trying to get juice from a well-squeezed orange. There's nothing left. These ladies and gentlemen torture me on the waiver wire. They torture me in drafts, but it's a lot of fun. So yeah, that's what we do over there. We play football. It's football season. It's what we're into.
Yeah, and we're gonna have some football tomorrow. Dallas Cowboys in the Hall of Fame game. I mean, everyone's watching that. I mean, it's gonna be so good.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch Dominic DiNucci and Dwayne Haskins.
Oh, God, it's gonna be
thrilled.
It's gonna be horrible. But hey, we're one step closer to football,
and we're watching.
And we will be watching. One last little plug. If you missed the Smackdown earlier this week, Jake and I destroyed the quarterback position, 32-32. Memphis and Jerry have been killing it with all the divisional breakdowns, giving you a different perspective as well. And Dallas was just here too, covering 32 rookie names on the YouTube earlier this week. So there is a ton of content. And if you missed any of it, I highly suggest you go back and check it out. We got some questions coming tonight, but before we jump into the football questions, got a random one just to get to know you guys a little bit better. Dallas, I'll start it off with you. Threw it out there. In so far this year, what's your favorite TV show you've discovered or movie you found? What have you been doing to entertain yourself besides all this rookie coverage?
So for this one, it's actually something that I've watched before. The 3rd season of one of my favorite shows came out this year, American Gods. I don't know if anyone's either read the book and or seen any of the seasons. Basic general premise is that the gods of old are still alive, but gods are only real if you believe in them. So since the following has basically switched to technology and media, the gods have now become those forms in our real life. So it's beautifully shot, amazing. It's on Stars, highly recommend. That's probably my favorite thing that I've watched outside of like the generic Loki and stuff like that everyone's watching.
All right, there you go. Another one for the list for some people. Jake, how about you, man? Besides apparently some Erie Otters, this is the kind of coverage you get here if you're watching live on YouTube. Jake's rocking a very obscure, I'm assuming minor league hockey team shirt, but couldn't let you get away with that.
A little respect. That's a Connor McDavid shirt right now.
I don't know who the hell that is.
Oh, that's even worse, Kyle. No respect on the man's name. That
guy? Who the fuck is that?
Sorry.
I did a couple shows on actually I can't remember if it was the Smackdown or the Fellas, but this isn't the first time that you've asked me this question, and I give you nice t-shirt, Kyle.
Thank you.
That's not the first time you've asked me this question, and I'm sure the last time I answered it was a bad answer. I don't like watch a ton of TV or new movies, but recently on Netflix I threw on anyone here seen American Vandal?
Oh, I have not.
No. Negative. I used to be an American Vandal, if that counts.
Oh, I'm sure you have. It looks like it's like a true crime documentary series type thing. It's like an 8-episode documentary. And the whole premise behind it, it's 2 high school students they're not trying to solve a murder or a theft or anything. They're trying to prove the innocence of their classmate who's being accused. Actually, he's been expelled. And they're trying to prove his innocence for a crime that was committed in the parking lot where someone painted spray painted a penis on 27 of the faculty automobiles in the parking lot. So he was expelled for that. They're trying to prove his innocence, and I was about 4 episodes deep before I realized the whole thing was fake.
It feels like life imitating art.
I'm like 4 episodes in, and my wife comes in, and she's like, and she points at the guy who's being accused of painting the dicks, and she's like, I think that he's an actor. I've seen him on something else. I'm like, that can't be. He's from this random high school in Colorado. He's the dick painter.
Oh my god.
And sure enough, we looked up a couple more guys. He's an actor. They're all actors. I don't know. It's weird how they did it. You guys are gonna have to check out the show, but like there's funny parts of it, but it took me so long to realize that it's actually some sort of like weird spin on a comedy. It's like a spoof of a true crime thing. But
this is the Pablo Picasso of dicks.
Yeah. And they're trying to find all this incriminating evidence, and one of their main bullet points for why their friend could not have done it was because he actually happened to be a notorious dick drawer since back in the 9th grade. So they went back and they looked at all of his paintings, all of his artwork, and all of his artwork for the past 4 years had shown ball hairs, which there were no ball hairs on the faculty vehicles that day. So for me, I mean, that's an open and shut case at that point, but there was plenty of other evidence. It was a good show. It was entertaining. It would have been a lot cooler if I had found out that it was all true, because I thought it was the craziest thing I'd ever seen, but it's all fake. Still a good story nonetheless. Highly recommended.
Nice. Well, apparently we got Ryan in the chat here on YouTube. He said it was pretty well done, to be honest. So he's with you there. He can vouch it's hilarious, but man, that went a different direction I thought it was originally going. But Jesse, how about you, man? Anything?
Wow, that's a tough follow. I got to be honest.
Yes,
mine is,
you got the Dick Bandit or whatever the hell.
Mine is way more boring than that. I had a tough time choosing between two. I really liked Falcon and Winter Soldier, but apparently that's way too boring for this crew. I loved Yellowstone, and I'm not a Kevin Costner fan at all. Little bit of trivia. I don't know if anyone knows this, but Kurt Russell was originally cast in Bull Durham. If you go back and look at that movie and imagine Kurt Russell in the lead of that movie instead of, wow. I mean, I love that movie. Bull Durham is an amazing movie. I'm a huge baseball fan, but with Kurt Russell, that would have been one of the greatest movies of all time. It would have been as good as Major League, right?
Better hair for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But I'll tell you what, Costner is perfect in Yellowstone because it calls for sort of a quiet, stoic, doesn't talk a whole lot kind of guy. And, Costner's kind of good at that. But it's an amazing show. They do a lot with horses. One of my podcast partners, Chad, owns a horse ranch, and he raises and trains horses for a living. So he knows a lot of the people on the show, even though he doesn't watch the show. I'll send him videos and he'll tell me, oh yeah, this is this guy. And this is the most famous horse trainer in North Texas or whatever. And really, I like it because it's sort of Breaking Bad set in Montana, which is pretty amazing. It's Breaking Bad with horses instead of meth, I guess.
All right. But, I'm adding some to the list here. So this is good stuff. Memphis, how about you, man? I know I know you'd rather be podcasting than watching TV, but you've been watching anything good these days?
I don't care if it's basic or not. It was Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I did enjoy WandaVision. I did enjoy Loki. But it just reminded me of those classic 80s and 90s buddy cop movies. It felt like Lethal Weapon meets a Marvel movie. There was the opposite personalities, just everything about it. And it was just like everything that Disney does as it relates to Marvel and just about anything. It was fantastic. So it was only 6 episodes, but all those TV shows have been great. That's the only TV I've watched. I've watched the 3 Marvel series since January 1st. The rest has been football content. Yes, I am a nerd.
All good. I'll throw mine out there quickly. Brockmire. If you haven't watched that, it's on Hulu. I have no idea what the original station was. It is freaking hilarious. So it's about a washed up baseball announcer and his way back to the majors. And I don't know any actor's name, so you just have to look it up yourself. But if you have Hulu, it's on there, and it is awesome. Do not watch it with the kids around. Not appropriate for children.
Hank Azaria from The Simpsons.
There you go. Thank you.
I saw a couple of those. Really good, actually.
Appreciate that. I honestly, I couldn't even name, other than Robert Downey Jr., I could probably only name one other person in any of the Marvel movies. That's how bad I am at like actors' names. All those guys are famous as hell, and I don't know shit. I'm just like, whatever. But I'm sure they're all watching and really pissed off. All right, we got a question that came in from Twitter. This guy's handle is Grokster, I guess, but he's been a follower of mine before. I see him comment and stuff. So his name on here is Tony Prescott. I don't know anything else about him, but other than we've interacted on there, and he came hard here with a question for you guys. So I'm going to put you all on the spot. Jake, I'm going to make you bat lead off here. Rank the top 5 offenses in terms of reliable offensive production. So these are obviously the cream of the crop. I feel like there's a couple obvious ones, but as I was doing this, there were some tougher ones to fill out that top 5. Maybe some people got some holes. So what do you got, man? Do you have a top 5?
I do. Now, the way that he worded it was interesting. He said, he wants the top 5 in reliable offensive production. So maybe not necessarily just give me your top 5 best offenses, but ones that aren't gonna flop on you, and they're sure things. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I guess when I hear that, I'm thinking I want to see a stud at the quarterback position. Definitely one at wide receiver, preferably 2. And a beast running back. I have a few guys that come here, and I'm sure this name made everyone's list. But how about your Dallas Cowboys, Kyle? I got them number 1. Like I feel like that's about as safe as it gets for offense. They're top 5 quarterback, top 3 quarterback, the best 3 receivers in the game, and Zeke and even Tony Pollard to back him up in the backfield. So I think that's just about as good as it gets. I got the Chiefs in there second. Same thing, just crazy arsenal of weapons. Pat Mahomes to Kelsey to Tyreek Hill, Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the backfield. The Titans, Kyle, you and I have talked about what a difference it's going to make to have Julio on one side and AJ Brown on the other, and Derrick Henry in the backfield. I think the Chargers should make the list there. I got them next up on the list. Same reason as all the other ones, just a sick arsenal of weapons. And then I snuck the Packers in there at the end. Maybe not so much from a for sure fantasy perspective. I mean, I think we all have Devontae Adams as wide receiver 1. If there's any guy who's going to put up, realistically, 1,500 yards and 20 touchdowns, it could be Devontae Adams. Aaron Rodgers coming back for his one last ride. The big man's back in the saddle. I think that Green Bay offense is they're going to tear it up. I think they led the league in offensive points per game last season too. So I think Green Bay is reliable so long as Aaron Rodgers is there, and it looks like he is. Green Bay makes the list for me. So that's my top 5, man.
All right, I will. I won't give mine away yet. We'll kick it around the room here, but a lot of similar names. Dallas, let's go to you, man. Where did Jake miss? Just tell him why he was wrong. That's pretty much what we do on this show. It's all good.
I would not say that Jake
got food.
I would not say that Jake is wrong. I would just say that his order's a little messed up. And I do have one team that was not in his top 5. Number 1 for me is KC. Just when it comes to consistent production, you were pretty much guaranteed somewhere along the lines of 8 targets minimum, basically, to Tyreek Hill and to Travis Kelce. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, although not a game changer, was one of the most consistent running backs on a week-to-week basis before he got hurt last season. And then Patrick Mahomes is just the GOAT as of right now. So I feel like that's an easy one. Number 2 for me is the Dallas Cowboys for all the exact same reasons that Jake had just mentioned. Number 3 for me is actually Minnesota, especially after last season, what we saw with Justin Jefferson. You have 2 wide receivers in the top 10 finish of last year. Adam Thielen is the probably least sexiest top 12 wide receiver on a year in, year out basis over the last 4 years that you're going to have. There's a lot of steam basically pumping up his rapid decline, even though he's younger than some of the older 30, 31-year-old wide receivers out there. So that's something I'm not really understanding this offseason. I think at the end of this year, we're specifically going to be probably smacking ourselves in the face saying, why did we let him fall to the 4th and 5th to this guy? Number 4 for me, I have the Titans, and then Green Bay rounds out mine just due to, I don't really know what to expect with the team this year. I want to be on board for the run it back tour, the last dance with Aaron Rodgers and everything like that, but you can't really deny the fact that it's getting a little bit ugly with the organization. there seems to be a little bit of a scheme shift, pulling some work most likely away from a guy like Aaron Jones in the backfield. And then it could also just kind of flop, but you can't deny the fact that Aaron Rodgers is a juggernaut, and so is Devontae Adams. So that's my top 5.
All right, a lot of overlap there, similar names. Jesse, we'll kick it to you next, man. Who are some offenses that were that you had on your top 5?
Okay, so I approached this like Jake. I looked at the wording of this and said reliable, right? So I want first of all a veteran quarterback and a reliable offense. So I did go KC first because they're just obvious. Then I went Tampa, Green Bay, Seattle. I think Seattle's the one that hasn't been mentioned so far. Mm-hmm. Any offense with Russell Wilson, I'll take. You know, I understand that people may view Russell Wilson in fantasy as inconsistent from first half to second half a lot of years. However, the offense isn't. So if you look at the offense as a whole, they may shift their focus from pass to run at times, but they're still producing offense. So if Russell Wilson isn't producing, then maybe Chris Carson is. I had Dallas as my last team. I just feel with Dak, not being as savvy a veteran as Brady, Russell Wilson, or Aaron Rodgers, that they just deserve to be a little lower on the list. You know, like we said, for reliability. No denying that Dallas is an explosive offense. They deserve to be on the list. I did have a couple others. I had the Chargers as an honorable mention, but again, Herbert being not a veteran quarterback, only his second year, I just couldn't put him in there as a reliable. And same with Buffalo. Josh Allen just hasn't done enough times to call him reliable, even though they are an explosive offense.
Yeah, I like the Seattle call. I mean, Russ has had last year was a little inconsistent at times from game to game, but still overall was a great fantasy option. And just the dude, all he does, I mentioned it, I threw it out there on the quarterback show. All the dude does is throw 30 plus touchdowns every year. It's just what he does. So, sometimes you'd like that to maybe be a little more even from week to week. Hopefully that comes this year, but the weapons are awesome around him. That's a great offense and definitely one I considered as well. So I like that list as well. Memphis, why don't you just clean this thing up? Give your 5, and if any that we might have missed there. Any thoughts?
I just can't believe no one mentioned the Rams. I know last year was a down year with Jared Goff and that team, but that's like, having a real high-performance sports car, and all of a sudden you just put a turbo booster on it in the form of Matthew Stafford. You got the quarterback upgrade. You still got Kupp. You still got Woods. You've got Van Jefferson. They brought in Deshaun Jackson. Now, will Deshaun Jackson, Van Jefferson, Tutu Atwell, Tyler Higbee, will those guys be fantasy valuable? Maybe not, but will they make the rest of the offense go? And I'm looking at where they've been and where they're going. So I had KC 1, Buffalo 2. I think that offense is going to continue to just smash. Then I have the Rams, Green Bay, and then Tampa Bay. By the way, sneaky top 4 scoring team from 2020 is the Tennessee Titans. When your defense is such a pile of trash that you absolutely like literally they beat the Colts like 41-33 or something one game. They lost like 45-41 to Cleveland. I mean, this is a team that's going to score points, and you still have and not only are they going to score points, but you added Julio Jones to the mix in Tennessee. So that would be one of my honorable mentions that you probably wouldn't think of as being a high scoring offense, but Tennessee, but definitely the Rams. The Rams is in my top 5 that I think was a bit of an oversight.
All right. Great list there for sure. Mine was all said. So mine was Kansas City, Dallas, Green Bay, Tennessee, and the Chargers. So I think Jake and I had the same list, just in a different order. So there you go. But all good stuff there for sure. We had a question come in. Now this one was digging deep. So I think I'll fall on the sword first. And if you guys have any thoughts, these are all live on the show. Ryan, who was a big supporter earlier of Jake's penis vandal show or whatever.
Whoa, what'd you just say? He's a fan of my what?
Penis vandal show.
Hey, now.
I got you. Hey, Ryan said, here we go. Now, this is tough because honestly, I don't know if I put much thought into this year, to be honest. For leagues that have a defense slot, who are the top few defenses to target any juggernauts this year, or just stream based off matchup? So I'll take this first. I have done everything in my power to eliminate DSTs from every league that I'm in. I've definitely made this shift over the years. I've always played Dynasty, for the last 10 years or so ish, whatever. But like over the last few years, it's been, it's gotten maybe 50-50, and now Dynasty, now that, started more and more leagues, it's probably, 2-1 as far as Dynasty leagues, and those usually don't have DSTs. But, the best defensive units, I think, going into this year, I think the Rams should be really solid. Pittsburgh's team should be still racking up a bunch of sacks. They have a pretty strong offensive line. You have to hope that they are healthy there. Washington is another one, and Tampa Bay are just some of the best units that I've been looking at as far as maybe just ones to avoid. But I'll throw one bonus one out there that I think this is a solid enough defensive unit, is the Denver Broncos. They're going to be the team that I get everywhere, and if only for this fact, at the Giants, at Jacksonville, then the Jets first 3 weeks, and then I drop them and move on to somebody else. So that's how I play the game. Memphis is shaking his head. So what you got, bro?
The San Francisco 49ers. They play using Warren Sharp of Sharp Football's projected strength of schedule based on their opponent's projected win-loss record. They play by far the easiest strength of schedule in the league, and the reason why it's easy is because the teams they face are trash. So this is a defense that was really good a couple of years ago. They'll be getting Nick Bosa back, which should help with sacks. They got Fred Warner. They're pretty good at every level, and I think because they were bad last year, people are just going to forget how good they were 2 years ago, as well as the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots defense in 2019, I don't want to go as far as to call them a league winner, but in leagues with DST, man, they were solid. They had a ton of opt-outs last year. They should be getting those guys back. Another year with Belichick, this is going to be a run-the-ball, play defense team, especially if Cam Newton is the QB. So for me, those are a couple that are going to fly under the radar because of their performance last year. But if you look historically over the last couple of years, those are a couple that I would be looking at.
Yeah, and I was pulling up Fantasy Pros ADP. Where the hell is San Francisco? Did everyone forget about that? We're not even drafting them at this point. And maybe I'm just missing it. But, they're going 7th right now in Fantasy Pros ADP. So still solid. You don't have to overpay for them, but that could be one. The Patriots are 9th right now in ADP, and usually that's the thing about defenses is that there's one or two guys usually take them, and then you're kind of and the ADP is kind of tough from league to league. But anybody else want to chime in on this defense question?
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with what you guys have said. Those are solid defenses. I'll add in that the Ravens are always a solid attacking defense, and a couple of dark horses I like this year are Memphis's Colts. They're a young defense with a lot of really, really solid names and really strong players that could at any point step up. Definitely a good look for streaming if they have a good opponent. And also I like the Browns in that situation to stream from week to week.
I'll throw in there just a little caveat. Memphis mentioned New England. I just double-checked their schedule. Pretty solid to start the year. Miami at home, then at the Jets, and then New Orleans in week 3. Who the hell knows what that is going to look like there. You might have a better idea by week 3, but DSTs are definitely ones where you can play the matchups and with pretty good success. So,
and I do just want to segue in a little bit into that. So last year, my team going into the offseason, I acquired basically off the waiver wire and any of my redraft leagues that actually I have defenses, the Washington football team, because I'm predicating most of my pickups based off of the front 7. 2 teams that have very, very, very nasty front 7s that had very, very, very bad defenses last year are the Minnesota Vikings, who had a plethora of injuries. It was the only defense that Mike Zimmer has had over the last 5 years that was not in the top 10 at the end of the season. So that's something to look into. And then the Arizona Cardinals are a sleeper. So both of these are currently outside the top 15 of DFS draft ADP. And the Arizona Cardinals front 7 with their 2 just extremely freakishly athletic linebackers in Zaven Collins, who they just drafted this year, and then Isaiah Simmons from last year, on top of bringing in J.J. Watt to pair with Chandler Jones on the outside, as well as 2 of the beefiest. I think both of their nose tackles or D tackles are over 340 pounds on that team. Something to watch out for. That one, you have to kind of look out for who they're playing twice a year, being in that really tough division with those explosive offenses. But I wouldn't be surprised to see either one of those in the top 12, and with Minnesota easily in the top 5 again, just based off of that just kind of uneasiness in the NFC North this year.
I like that call. We got another question here, but Jake, anything else need to fill in here for us?
No, you guys mentioned all the defenses that I would be thinking of, but as he said, I'm streaming defenses the whole time. I'd rather take a hit on a mediocre defense that has a nice schedule as opposed to a defense that's a baller, but's going to have a couple tough matchups along the way.
All right. G in the chat said the Falcons defense when they play the Falcons offense in camp. Yeah, that's good. All right. So Andrew, big time listener of the show. We appreciate you tuning in, bro. He said outside of Kareem Hunt, who is the best running back handcuff to pick? So you guys can take this however you want. I think as far as what that definition looks like, might be different depending on what your thoughts are on that whole philosophy. But Jake, I'm just going to right back to you. Put you right on the spot as the rest of these guys get some time to think about it. Who is the running back handcuff to draft this year?
Yeah, I was trying to look up a couple names here while we were on the last topic, and I guess we got to kind of come up with a clear line of what we're calling a handcuff here, because like Javonte Williams ain't exactly a handcuff, right?
Right.
Right. I mean, yeah.
AJ Dillon's a guy that I think is not really getting talked about a whole lot. Jamal Williams isn't in town anymore. He was a guy that ate up some receptions last year. Aaron Jones is a big volume guy, plenty of touchdown opportunities. If some of those go AJ Dillon's way, then I think that he could end up being somewhat relevant this year. Gus Edwards sharing the backfield with J.K. Dobbins. Kyle, you and I have talked about him before. He's a consistent yards per touch guy. And Marlon Mack, I think, is another name that, you know, he, depending on the kind of workload he gets with Jonathan Taylor, could prove to have some value this year. Both him and Nyheim Hines. That team is going to have to run the ball without Carson Wentz, depending on how many weeks he ends up missing. And actually, Memphis, I'm curious to get your take, and perhaps I've missed it on DWZ, but do you think the Colts kind of just lean on the run now as like that's the only option if we're going to put up any points in this offense, or is Jacob Eason actually an option?
Well, first of all, I don't want to take credit for anyone else's work. I was listening to the GM Shuffle podcast today with Michael Lombardi and Adnan Virk, and they were talking about the reason this timeline's so funky is they won't know exactly what Carson Wentz's timeline is for 2 weeks because they need 2 weeks to evaluate how the surgery went, and then we'll know. I don't think this impacts Jonathan Taylor's workload one bit. But I do think if Marlon Mack gets an extra 5 to 6 carries a game, it's because they're trying to run the ball and play defense. I think you'll know something by the second preseason game. Phillip Rivers said that he would be willing to come back in and, help a brother out, if you will, and help the Colts out, maybe for the month of September. So I don't think much is really going to change in Indy. The Colts, first of all, have a brutal first 7 games of the season. They have the Rams, the Seahawks, the Dolphins, the Titans. It's rough as could be. They were literally hoping to go something like 3-3 with Carson Wentz. They have the Ravens in there.
Yep.
Just not an easy schedule. So it wasn't easy for Jonathan Taylor. From a redraft standpoint, I think I would let people draft these Colts guys early and then trade for them after they're disappointed when that schedule gets really cushy down the back half. I mean, when I say cushy, I mean like super cushy. I'm talking like Jets and Jaguars twice and some really good games down the stretch. But I do believe, yes, the Colts will see a higher volume. And the Colts are already like top 5 in run percentage anyway. So the best thing is you're going to see a lot more Marlon Mack, which could be an indicator of how Cam Akers could look this time next year.
There you go. I definitely, and that's direct from Indy, folks. I mean, that is boots on the ground here.
I have a question from Indy later, by the way. Don't let me forget.
All right. We'll make sure to get it in here. Jesse, how about you, man? Is there any running back handcuffs that you've been looking at to acquire during draft season here?
Absolutely. There are quite a few. I'll give you my favorite and then a dark horse. I do want to add, though, that if we're looking at Indy, just keep in mind that Quentin Nelson did go down just the other day with the same injury as Wentz, so could affect their running game as well.
$20 says Quentin Nelson's in the starting. He's never missed a snap. He's already had 2 surgeries this offseason. He posted a really tough guy quote today. Here's the thing. Carson Wentz may miss 12 weeks. Quentin Nelson will be in that. I don't care if they cut his foot off. He'll be out there like a pirate on a peg leg. He does not care.
Right on.
He played through a severe back injury last year. And if you can get through a back, you can get through a foot. So you may not get Wentz, but I'm not worried about Quentin.
Right on. All right. So I also want to thank Andrew Campy for this question and for shouting me out in chat. Andrew's a guy that we've had on our podcast as well. Awesome guy, awesome DWZ member, and just a fun guy to hang out and talk Dynasty with. So thanks for the question, Andrew. And I will say my favorite handcuff by far is Alexander Madison. So Dalvin Cook is a high value player. Obviously in redraft, he's huge value. Obviously in one quarterback, he's probably one of the top 3 or 4 picks. If not, I have him as second overall. So I think that offense has shown that if he goes down, Madison is maybe not as talented as him, but a similar type of back and fits right into this offense and could just sort of pick up where Dalvin Cook leaves off. You can't say that about a lot of handcuffs. And I really think he's a true definition of a handcuff because he doesn't get a whole lot of run outside of when Dalvin Cook gets injured. So that's definitely my favorite. I won't have Dalvin Cook without Alexander Madison, especially in Dynasty. And then as a sleeper kind of dark horse, I've got Kerryon Johnson. If something were to happen to Miles Sanders, I see him as a guy that could definitely take over in the Philly backfield above guys like Boston Scott, who they've sort of lost confidence in as a between the tackles runner, and then Gainwell is probably a little young to really step up right away, young and raw, especially opting out last year. So I think Kerryon Johnson has he has the pass blocking skills, the between the tackle skills to probably take over as the every down back if Miles Sanders were to get hurt.
And those are definitely some cheap options for sure when you're talking about even oh shoot, I just lost it here. Alexander Madison is a name we're all familiar with. Madison's going as RB48, 140th overall in Fantasy Pros ADP. So that's a guy that you're getting, just to put that in perspective, almost 40 picks more further along than AJ Dillon, another 30-ish, 35 picks beyond where Gus Edwards is going. So like Madison's a guy that's in a run first offense traditionally been there in Minnesota. He's a little cheaper than some of these other names that got brought up, but definitely in line. Memphis, you had your hand raised, so I'll go ahead and call on you.
You'll call on me. Yes, sir. Going by the definition of the question, outside of Kareem Hunt, so the guy I'm going to bring up is being drafted after Kareem Hunt, and it's James Robinson. Per Fantasy Pros ADP, Kareem Hunt is going as...
like I should have raised my hand.
I mean, he's wide receiver, running back 23 off the board. I mean, here's the thing. If he plays the Nick Chubb role, it would not surprise me if Travis Etienne played the Kareem Hunt role. We may be drafting the wrong guy ahead of the wrong guy as the backup here. I think James Robinson is a guy that you're going to get, better production out of in that range than just about anybody in that range mixed in with, Myles Gaskin, Melvin Gordon, Chase Edmonds. I mean, there's some studs in there too. There's like a guy, I like Mike Davis. Obviously, Javonte Williams is like family at this point. But there, are some guys. I would rather have James Robinson than Kareem Hunt, just because I think he plays the Nick Chubb role in his offense.
Yeah, and one note on that, you nailed it, running back 23 in ADP, but over in half PPR, there's different sources that show up on here. And over at CBS, which if you compare it to like Fantrax or other, best ball sites right now, like those are guys that are really, really tuned in, right? I think if we're talking about redraft leagues, sometimes you're talking about, work leagues or family leagues, those types of things, which again, we all want to dominate those leagues too, just to prove that we're not completely insane for spending 12 months a year on this stuff. Robinson's ADP is RB32. I just think that if you're talking to the more casual fan, they're gonna know Travis Etienne. That's a name that people are familiar with. He was a first round pick, and they're just gonna assume that Robinson's role is really, really diminished to the point where he is more of a handcuff rather than a RB2 that you can play. So I like that call. Dallas, you I think you cursed Memphis out there, so maybe that was your pick too. Anything to add there? Or any other names you like?
No, I was thinking about it. I just didn't. I honestly didn't want to be the person to say it, so I'm glad Memphis did it. I was thinking it, but no, I'm gonna go ahead and stick with, I guess, my specialty and go with the rookie. I've kind of been beating this guy's drum all off season, and the situation is very much there for both touches as well as a lot of receiving work, and an offense that lost a lot of target share. Javion Hawkins in Atlanta, all the reports out of camp, he is busting long touchdown after long touchdown. And I understand that it just got into padded practices, but I'm seeing some of these highlights and he's not even being touched. Like, the guys aren't getting in there. They're not able to lay a hand on him when he's busting these. And that's just an aspect that is not brought by anyone else that can fill that running back role, even including Cordell Patterson, because they're different types of players. I had that experiment in the backfield of Cordell Patterson for 2 years with the Bears. Good luck, Atlanta, if you think it's going to work. Javion Hawkins is my guy this offseason. You can get him blatantly free, pretty much free in redraft. Dynasty, you're still getting him in the 4th round. And compared to the guys that are going ahead of him, like Jesse had noted a little bit on Gainwell, who I also am not very high on this offseason, he has a much easier path to touches and targets this season in general for redraft purposes than a guy like Gainwell does. So I don't understand how he's going almost 2 rounds behind him in rookie drafts. But again, this is redraft. I think he's going to get touches as an RB2 if anything even remotely happens to Mike Davis. He showed in college that he can withstand a full workload. So I'm excited to see what he can do for the Falcons, who are kind of needy for talent.
Awesome. I appreciate bringing the rookie goodness to the show. Obviously, I've been killing it with all that content and a name that people should be familiar with. His ADP is almost non-existent. Like you were talking about, he's going so late. 2 other names I'll throw out there as far as take from the opposite approach. We'll go old busted, but you might be able to squeeze a little bit of redraft goodness out of these guys. I'm going with the Williams brothers. They're now separated. They're no longer chilling in KC, but Damian Williams in Chicago. If this Tariq Cohen news that he's not going to be ready for a few weeks, Williams is going. He's free right now. If you want to take a shot, he's familiar with this offense. As far as with Nagy being in Kansas City when Damian Williams was there, so that might be worth a shot if you want to go super deep, and even deeper than that, he's going right around where Hawkins is going. Darrell Williams in KC. They brought in McKinnon. We saw down the stretch, there were times where they didn't really trust CEH as much as fantasy owners had hoped. It doesn't mean that Edwards-Hilaire's fantasy value is, can't have a ton of upside there, that it can't be a top end back. But, there was a little worrisome at times that he just didn't get the work that you were maybe expecting. And this is a guy that they like, as much as I know I've discounted this dude plenty of times. I'm like, okay, whatever, man. You're just the other Williams, but he's been solid, and obviously any piece of that offense can be good. And these are guys that are going like for free right now. So take that as you will, as far as ultimate handcuffs down there. So one thing I wanted to bring up here, and since we got Memphis here, I'll let him start, but you mentioned the tough start to the season. Carson Wentz is in the news right now, obviously. But one of the things we haven't touched on our show yet is there were people drafting Michael Pittman, 44th overall right now, still at wide receiver ADP. T.Y. Hilton, the old man goodness, still inside the top 50 at the position. And then obviously Paris Campbell was a sleeper for a lot of people, just as most recently as a couple weeks ago. Are you touching any of these indie wide receivers? What's your thoughts on this trio?
It depends on when your draft is. If I had to draft today, absolutely just going to leave them laying. I think that's the most underutilized move in redraft, is just to let your workmates overdraft players and because they're going to drop them. They do it every year. They're super excited. They drop them in weeks 1 or 2, and then all of a sudden you get the alert: Carson Wentz coming back week 4. Fine, go trade for Michael Pittman or pick Michael Pittman up off of the waivers in week 3. So no, knowing what I know now, I'm not touching any of those guys. But if you're looking for a sneaky name in like a best ball, Zach Pascal. I mean, this guy has been having a great camp. He had a lot of touchdowns last year. And if Carson Wentz comes back sooner than later with his big arm, he's a guy who, not someone I want to project to play week to week like I would Pittman or T.Y. Hilton, but a guy who could certainly help you. Yes, Jake. I'm calling on Jake on his own show.
I'm sorry, Memphis. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. That was kind of me trying to signal to Kyle, like, hey, when Memphis is done, I got something to say.
Get it over here, yeah.
Not a huge implications question, but I'm just curious as a Colts fan if you prefer Pascal over Paris Campbell. Dynasty perspective, I suppose.
Dynasty perspective, I want Paris Campbell. He has more draft capital, and he's attached to a very polarizing university. So if he has a week, I'm going to find the the Ohio State University guy or lady in my league, and I'm going to sell them the Paris Campbell for the most outrageous oversell of all time. So from a dynasty perspective, I like taking flyers on guys. Like, I think that's part of the reason why we like Kyle Pitts so much, or why Tua gets so much slack. Guys that go to these blue chip mega conferences in college tend to get a longer leash. Their fans are truly some of the greatest fans of any sport in the world. So for me, Paris Campbell, I'm going to look to flip. So I'd rather have him in Dynasty. But like in a seasonal best ball, like I know a lot of people are doing, underdog and stuff like that, if I'm going to throw a late flyer on a wide receiver, you could do worse than Zach Pascal.
Anybody else here? Any thoughts on these? How you're going to handle these Colts wide receivers? Are we hands off? Or do you think there's still values that you can target on draft day?
In deep drafts, redrafts, if you're drafted, typically I do my drafts around Labor Day, either the Sunday or on Labor Day, or all my redrafts. And
Tell them about it.
That's how it's been since 1995.
Tell them again. Say it one more time for the people in the back. You draft the last possible minute.
Yeah, right. So we do our draft on Labor Day, if possible. But anyway, some of my leagues go 18, 20 rounds even for redraft. So in the deeper leagues, yeah, absolutely, these guys are draftable, even if they're on PUP or even if Paris Campbell ends up on PUP or Wentz isn't due back for a few weeks. Definitely, I can stash either Campbell or especially Pittman on the bottom of my roster for a few weeks. I don't mind.
Jake, Dallas, anything?
I don't really want any of them. A lot of Frank Reich's offenses over the years have been a spread it out offense. It was that case last year with Phillip Rivers, where an alpha really didn't stick his head out. The closest thing to an alpha receiver we've seen underneath Reich would probably be Alshon Jeffrey's first year in Philadelphia when he was healthy for the whole year. And I think that was like 800 yards and like 8 touchdowns, which cool, but I'm not going to win a fantasy league off of that production. So with Wentz down, and even if it's only 2 to 3 weeks of a backup quarterback, if you're taking away from basically that ceiling that we've seen in this type of offense from a wide receiver, I'm kind of hands off.
Yeah, and we got Pittman right now, like I said earlier, wide receiver 44, T.Y.'s 48th overall at receiver. Pittman's going ahead of Antonio Brown, so don't even tell Jake that. You got Chenault and Gallup, and then there's T.Y. Hilton at 48th, and then some notable names after Hilton and obviously Pittman. You still got Mike Williams there, Corey Davis, Marvin Jones. You got a lot of rookies. You got Bateman, Elijah Moore. You got Mooney coming in. He's somebody that people are liking. Russell Gage in an offense that's going to throw the ball, 8,000 times. So those, we got to see what those price tags are going to look like here in a couple weeks. ADP probably hasn't shifted yet. But one thing I'll throw out there, and this probably won't be the last time I say this, but I think it's relevant for these guys, is that once you're getting into round 8, 9, 10 or later, unless you've took somebody else like a Saquon maybe that has, and maybe a question mark about his week 1 status, you hopefully aren't relying on these guys for a few weeks, right? Bye weeks aren't kicking in till 3 or 4 or whatever. So if you're drafting these guys for depth purposes and your team is pretty set as far as your starting lineup, hopefully you can kind of weather the storm and see this through. Now, obviously, I'm going to hope that I get Michael Pittman somewhere more in that Marvin Jones range than all the way up by, Curtis Samuel or Antonio Brown at this point. If I know I'm going to have to, there's going to be a couple weeks where I won't even see what this looks like, because Wentz, yes, he's familiar with the offense, but this is a brand new team. It's not like a guy who's missing all of, training camp and is a team that he's familiar with weapons he's been playing with for years. So there's just that where you're like, man, I'd much rather see Michael Pittman on my bench with Carson Wentz for a few weeks and be able to evaluate him as opposed to lose that opportunity. But just one thing of note when you're looking at guys that are going to miss time early in the season, it's not always, you're not always going to feel that like you would if they missed time mid-season. So there was another name on here. I'll just switch the subject real quick and kick it back to you, Dallas, because you posted this, you tweeted this video, and I want to know more about this guy, Rondell Moore, because it came out today. AJ Green he's going to miss a little bit of training camp time, and he's old, and we all remember he couldn't catch a cold in Cincy last year. Now he's in AZ, but they drafted Rondell Moore, and this is a guy that Dynasty players might be familiar with. But what's kind of your thoughts on him? A breakdown of what Rondell Moore, what fantasy owners can expect from him, maybe even right out of the gate.
Yeah, he's so fun to watch. I love it. For those of you that are curious, he's referring to a tweet I sent out earlier of him absolutely breaking the ankles of a DB that he's going up against in Arizona training camp. Twice, actually. He had this wicked fake out move. I can't do it, but it was nice. It's just fun watching the guy.
Please
play.
do.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, it was a little bit of this. Yeah. But no, so Rondell is so explosive, and people talk about him taking over basically the role that Christian Kirk had or Indy Isabella had, but he's not the same player that they were. He's not that deep threat that's going to get those super lofty targets, although he has had a couple of deep touchdown catches over some other DBs this short camp, I guess, because they started a little bit late. They're kind of like the Detroit Lions last year. I don't know why, but they started like 4 or 5 days later than everyone else. Their camp started on Saturday. But he is an electric guy. He's walking into an offense that likes to throw the ball a lot. The pace of play is always pretty high with Clingensbury, and this is kind of a make or break it year. Being the second overall draft pick for what could be his final year, he's probably going to be trying to work him in quite a bit. And with his AJ Green injury, there is quite a bit of a hole that he's going to be able to work into and get some reps that he most likely was not getting. He is splitting time right now with the first and second team, but everything I'm hearing from every beat reporter that's there is saying that he's looking electric. There's absolutely no signs of any injury hangover from last year or the years prior, which was the biggest concern coming in. And from what I've seen, there's been a couple of highlight catches where there's one where he's running just a deep seam route and there's two safeties and he goes up in between the two safeties, snags the ball and comes down after getting hit by both of them. So I don't think this hype thing that's been overblown all offseason is really that big of a deal. I'm extremely excited to see him, and I actually got my first share of him in my second to last Dynasty rookie draft this weekend. So pretty pumped.
That's awesome. Yeah, and the interesting thing with him is he was he's 5'7", 5'8", or I mean,
Seven.
Really
Yeah,
5'7".
He's the co-mayor of Munchkinland.
Yes.
Well, yeah, Kyler and him, Kyler can just throw it straight and it'll be right to him. But he's not he's not way underweight, which I think is something that could be to his benefit in this league. Some smart ass commented on that tweet and said, "Wow, I didn't know that wide receivers even wore numbers in the 80s anymore."
That's
that
because
guy
they've been
was
watching football for 8 years. By
at
the way,
Kyle
Kyler
Murray.
Murray said, "I want one of you guys to look me in the eye," and they had to draft Rondell Moore.
Jeez.
It's a good one.
Jake, you want to add anything on Rondell Moore? I saw you pumping your fist as a guy that you've been talking about on our show a bunch. But any thoughts? You've been doing some mocks. Have you been getting them?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I've been getting them, but I mean, I love Rondell Moore this year. I always I like to cite those freshman stats: 1,300 yards, 12 receiving touchdowns at Purdue. Dude, he's just a super freak athlete. He's one of those guys. If he would have attended any SEC school, he would have ended up being a first-round pick. I'm fairly certain of it. Christian Kirk's not a concern to me. AJ Green is not a concern to me. Actually, and I brought up this point to you before on one of our shows, Kyle, but can you imagine a better scenario, a better environment for a receiver to develop in than joining a wide receiver corps of AJ Green and DeAndre Hopkins? You've got an accurate quarterback in Kyler Murray throwing the ball to you. I just think the stars are aligning for this guy to have a fantasy relevant season as soon as his rookie year. And he's one of those guys that doesn't really get talked about emerging from this class with the Jalen Waddles and the Devonta Smiths, and Rashad Bateman's getting some hype now, but there's never really not a whole lot of talk around Rondell Moore. He hasn't, none of his numbers since that freshman year have been, nothing jumps off the stat sheet, but the dude's got it. He's going to be an animal, and I think he's the wide receiver too this season in Arizona. The dude's going to be a stud.
Yeah, he's going 70 picks, 70 picks after Waddle, about 30 picks after Bateman and where Elijah Moore is going. So we had Clay in the chat put 2-2 plus Rondell equals Mo Alley Cox. That's pretty hilarious, actually.
It's like the little kids. You put one on the other one's shoulders and throw a trench coat.
Yeah, I was gonna say trench coat. Yes. So
classic.
Jesse, anything to add there, and then we'll kick it to Memphis to put a bow on this thing with his his question that he had burning in his pocket. But Jesse, anything to add here before we switch gears?
Yeah, just real quick, because you threw out there that it's on brand to tell people why they're wrong in this show.
Yes,
right?
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Go, get him, get him.
DeAndre Hopkins disagrees with both of you. The latest tweet that I saw about Rondale Moore is that he is not impressed.
Not impressed.
Not
Dang.
impressed. Rondale Moore has a lot to learn to impress
Dang.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Is that straight from DeAndre Hopkins' Twitter?
Yeah, well,
At
straight from
Nuke.
yes, it is, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
Hey, I think maybe Nuke's just trying to kill some of his value for his own personal gain in fantasy this season. But
Yeah, I mean, I think he's. I mean, I think he's trying to
That's
to
hilarious.
inspire the young man, to work harder. But
I saw, it might be. I saw it was. I forget I don't know who the coach was, but I saw somebody tweeted out that somebody asked the New England Patriots running backs coach, "What does Ramondre Stevenson have to work on?" And the reply was everything. So it's definitely that time of year they're trying to make sure these players don't get too big for their britches, as my father would probably say. To be honest, that's probably where that quote came from. But Memphis, what do you got, man? Why don't we end this thing on a high note? Maybe I have no idea what this is, so why don't you take it?
All right, a little boy from a land down under. His name's Greg. He wrote me this question. He wants to know, Kyle, would you rather fight a grizzly bear-sized Jerry Sinclair or 10 penguin-sized Memphises?
God, so one grizzly bear the size of Jerry Sinclair.
No. A Jerry Sinclair the size of a grizzly bear,
I got
or
it. Okay.
10 Memphises the size of a penguin.
Those are
Oh,
jacked penguins, man.
Yeah,
That's a funny sight to picture.
that is. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Man, I'd probably. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with a really creative and fun answer on why I would choose Jerry, because he's not here, and I love ripping on Jerry, but I can't think of anything off the top of my
You
head.
can take
You
Jerry.
put me on the spot. In real life, it's funny. I've met Jerry in real life, and he's not a small dude, but he's just like he's not a very tall
He's
man.
unassuming. He's unassuming.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, and I'm not in any great shape or athleticism here, but I think I can take regular Jerry
All
down.
I'm saying is 10 little Memphises biting at my ankles. I'm not into that at all.
Yeah, that probably would be tough. I'd probably just take on the grizzly bear Jerry or whatever we were going with there.
That's the answer. That's the 100% the answer.
Oh my gosh. Thanks, G, for that. That just
I
adds
made
to
that
this.
up and totally put that evil on him.
I was gonna say, what the hell is that? He's probably watching right now, just cursing
Let me
out.
ask you guys a question. So you brought it up. Let me ask a question, a serious question this time. How are you guys feeling about Damian Harris? Like, every day camp goes by, the more I like him.
Yeah.
I just got an offer in a dynasty league. You guys know what a Terry McLaurin fan I am. I forget what I was originally offered, but my counter, this guy's been dying to get Joe Mixon and Russell Gage for me. You can go seasonal or whatever. So I countered with James Robinson, Damian Harris, and Terry McLaurin for those two, for Gage and Mixon. So I'm big on Damian Harris to circle all this back around for this year. I don't know that it can last forever with Bill Belichick, because he'll probably draft a running back in the first round next year, but I don't know. I'm big on Damian Harris this year. I know Jake is for sure.
They got one of the best offensive lines in the league. They're going to pound the rock. They have no other choice, because if they're going to start Cam Newton, they're not going to attack through the air, or they can try, or they can die trying. But
He could throw a dozen touchdowns this year. Think about it. Dozen.
that's
thing
that's optimistic.
Go ahead.
One thing I really like is a power back with a running quarterback. So receiving backs, not so much with a running quarterback, but power back would complement Cam Newton nicely, I think.
What about what they make when they make the switch? Think that hurts, helps?
I don't think it hurts, because I think they're committed to him. You don't see Belichick come out and say, "This is my guy," ever. Especially for this is his third year now. That's not Belichick's style, and he didn't really come out and say it. But for Belichick, he did. So yeah, I really like Damian Harris. And,
I'm sorry, Jesse.
I mean, not a bad idea to have Ramondre Stevenson and maybe even Sony Michel, because it just seems to me like there's a time in every season for every running back in New England. At some point, everybody's going to get some run.
I was looking at, I double checked this too, because for Dynasty, I mean, contracts every time. God, I want to see it. Harris is on the team for at least this year and next. I looked at some Dynasty rankings over at DLF. Like right now, consensus, he's going 6 spots after AJ Dillon. They're the same age. Dillon is going to be behind Aaron Jones for 2 more years. I would rather have Damian Harris, who's going to be the lead back in that offense, rather than sitting around waiting for AJ Dillon, to finally hit because Jones gets hurt, or waiting 3 years for the Packers to cut ties with Aaron Jones. So I picked up Harris in a dynasty league like for super cheap last year because somebody thought they were just selling me a spot starter, and I'm very happy with him on my roster because you can never have enough running backs. So I'm feeling good about him right now, but that could just be bias. So anybody else here got any thoughts on Harris? Because he's definitely a hot name right now.
That maybe regarding the quarterback switch, I think one of the things that gives people a little bit of pause with Damian Harris is, Cam Newton's going to get all those goal line carries. Well, maybe when Mac Jones takes over, that's not even in the realm of possibility, and Damian Harris gets that much more work in the red zone, just throwing shit at the wall.
I dig it. Well, we're right here at an hour, so I'm gonna close the book on this thing, but we'll kick it around just real quick. Give us Dallas. Let us know where people can find you and what you're working on throughout this month of August.
Well, that's Dallas.
Yeah, as always,
nailed the outro.
Got a little. It's outro. It's every time. It's perfect.
Yeah.
But no, this week show got a little delayed. Had a guest reschedule then cancel on me, so I ended up doing a quick little thing on Monday. Ironically, for those of you that have already listened to the Smackdown, you are going to get the exact same concept. No, we did not plan it, but I am going over 32 rookies in 32 minutes. I am very winded. My voice is hoarse by the end of it, but it's a banger of an episode, guys. You're going to love it. Other than that, it's time to get into the nitty-gritty stuff. So it's all 2021 content from me from now on. I've got a couple of guests lined up, 2 over the next 3 weeks. So just going to keep getting all these different angles of Dynasty. I'm going to be diving in. Most likely you'll get a lot of my thoughts as to the Hall of Fame game, and then specifically what the roster shakeups are going to be looking like for these rookies as the offseason training camp just kind of progresses. So that's all I got really going on.
Memphis, what about the Warzone, man? You've been killing it with the divisional breakdowns. It's been a ton of fun. I've had a lot of good writer downers. But what's in store throughout this month?
What I'm saying to you is you should give it to somebody that don't know any better, because that's a fugazi. All right?
That's a fugazi? How do you know it's a fugazi? You looked at it for 2 seconds.
Well, it's a fake.
Yeah, I know what a fugazi is.
It's a fugazi. Anyway, the Dynasty Warzone every single Wednesday, and this week on Friday, Jerry and I are going to record live on Thursday night. We're doing the AFC West. We're doing the NFC West. We did the AFC West today, and then next week we're wrapping it up with the North on Wednesday and Friday. The Dallas 32 Rookies in 32 Minutes is now live on the Dynasty Warzone podcast channel. I know you're going to drop this. Maybe you can stash this till Saturday, a little Saturday bonus. Yeah. Give the YouTube consumer something for tuning in early.
Yes,
but
sir.
man, we're creeping up there. It's going to be 6 days a week. We're going to have stuff. We're going to have Dallas on Monday. We're going to have you and Jake on Tuesday. Me and Jerry Wednesday. Back to you and Jake on Thursday. Me and Jerry on Friday. And then eventually, when the preseason rolls around, we're going to have Tyler and Lou hitting us with some DFS. So a lot of stuff coming, DWZ. So make sure you're subscribed everywhere. You never know in what order the content may hit. So if you're subscribed everywhere, you can have it in whatever order you want.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the YouTubers deserve a little early access here.
We did that, 2 weeks ago? We did
Yes.
the NFC East.
We did it like on a Sunday night, I think.
Yeah. And the YouTube subscriber had that for like a full week. They were out making actionable moves before their podcast consumer, brethren.
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
a good time.
Jesse, any any topics, any little peek behind the curtain just to entice people even more to get on the Patreon?
Absolutely. We have the review of our first ever DWZ auction draft coming next week. So that's Patreon 11 with the one and only Mr. Neil Gray as our guest. So we really had a blast. Neil is one of the Aussie guys. He hops on the Aussie Guys podcast once in a while, and really is an amazing guy to have on. He is sort of the glue that keeps DWZ together, and really was a lot of fun. Keep tuned in to the Patreon feed, and we've got a lot of fun stuff planned. Might even do a Campus to Canton League coming up here in the next few weeks.
There you go. Great group of guys for sure. So if you haven't already taken the dive into that, I mean, you definitely should. And last but not least, Jake, any parting words of wisdom here?
No, thank you to everyone who participated in the YouTube chat. This was a blast. I'm excited to be on 2 times a week now. Just that much more fantasy football fun. And go check out American Vandal and tell me you don't think that shit's real for like the first few episodes. I'm telling you, I'm not the only sucker out there.
Sorry for saying that someone was a big fan of your area there, bud. But no, American Vandal. There you go. We got some shows now on the list. Appreciate all you guys that tuned in. We're going to be here every Wednesday in one shape or another doing some Q&A. So if you're following me on Twitter at Kyle Month8, I'll throw a tweet out there, usually Tuesday, retweet it a few times. Bring some questions. Come to watch the show. Drop them in there live. Throw us off a bit. That's what we're looking for here. So appreciate you guys. We are going to be back here. Smackdown. We're going to be back on Monday night again. 32 and 32. We're going to roll it back with the running back. So be sure to stay subscribed to the War Zone, but be back here Monday night for that. It's going to be a ton of fun. We're going to cram it all in, all 32 backfields. So you guys take it easy. Stay safe. We'll catch you guys later.